It's the final night of the Minnesota high school football regular season. The Spuds take on Edina. We'll preview that. Plus, it's a homecoming for Kole Heckendorf and a couple of his St. John's players. Hot Mike starts now.
Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota. Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mike. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome to the, we got football edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra. KSFL TV. Good morning, everybody in Sioux Falls. KNBN and out in western South Dakota. And Inforum.com. Happy Wednesday, hump day, everybody. The 15th of October. Yeah, it's not just Maction or Fun Belt or CUSA Weekday, whatever they call it. We got high school ball tonight on the final night of the Minnesota high school football regular season because of conferences the next couple days. Yeah, we got football tonight. We got high school football tomorrow. Then by the time we get to Friday, we know the deal by then. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am Dom Izzo, host of said program on a hump day Wednesday. A lot to get to today. Yeah, we're talking ball here as we do most every day with a couple of fun connections going on. Spuds have a biggie tonight. Wrapping up the regular season with Edina. Kevin Feeney's going to join us later on in the show. Yeah, it's Edina. And last I checked, they're pretty good at all sports. The ultimate cake eater school, we can say it. And their quarterback, Mason West, is quite good. In fact, he's Division I good. And the fact is he's not playing college football. He's going to be playing college hockey. He's already been drafted in the National Hockey League. That's what the challenge the Spuds face tonight. We'll get into that coming up later on in the show. This is a complete deja vu all over again for Kevin Feeney because years and years ago, I want to say 2008, we took our old SAT truck, the old truck, down to Edina because Fargo South was playing Edina, which does, I mean, think about that. We don't even have North Dakota, Minnesota teams can't even play each other anymore in football. Well, you know, rest in peace to the Breck-Wop rivalry because that has been gone for about a decade now. Anyway, that year, Edina had a quarterback named Anders Lee who would go on and play hockey at Notre Dame and now plays professionally in the National Hockey League. He torched Fargo South that night. So here we go again. We'll talk with Kevin about that coming up later on in the show. Looking forward to that. As I mentioned, is Wednesday. Our Bison Media Zone Wednesday is back today. Sam Getzinger will join us. If you watched the end of the show yesterday, the email went out a few weeks ago. I let everybody know who's doing what. To Adam Getzinger was going to do the show. He's not available, so Sam will do the show. That's coming up at 10:30 as we get ready for the Bison Indiana State. We'll also chat some hoops because the Bison men have their first exhibition game tomorrow night with the University of Minnesota. We'll chat about that coming up later on in the show. But we'll start with the baseball postseason as we are now 2 games in both league championship series, and the one common factor in both is the road teams have won both games. It was the Mariners winning against the Blue Jays, and the Dodgers pitching has dominated against Milwaukee. Jackson Chourio was the one shining star for the Brewers last night to get them out to an early lead. But after that, the Dodger bats and pitching was great. Andy Paez goes the opposite way. The Dodgers can kill you a million different ways. This is why they spend as much money as they do. But they develop. Paez is the guy they developed. Opposite field here to score Kike Hernandez to make it a 2-1 game. Then Yoshinobu Yamamoto. They spent the money on this guy. Strikes out Christian Yelich. Oh, yeah, they have this guy. Ohtani, though, had not been able to hit. Strikes out here. It's a 2-1 game in the 6th with Max Muncy up at the plate. And he has just been a tremendous player in the postseason. That ball hammered to center. 412-foot shot put the Dodgers up by 2. It makes it a 3-1 score. You had to imagine, though, eventually Ohtani, who had one hit over the last 3 games, was eventually going to do something. He does in the 7th with a bleeder to right. Kike Hernandez will come in to score. He's always on base. It's a 4-1 score. They had the infield drawn in. Ohtani was able to pound it through, get the extra insurance run that the Dodgers would need. It's a 5-1 score here. Ohtani badly fooled. Again, he's scuffling at the plate right now, which the scary thing is I think he's going to start Game 4 of this series. Meanwhile, Yamamoto was cruising. Got some help from his defense here. That's a nice backhanded play by Tommy Edman, who was the NLCS MVP last year when they beat the Mets. How about Yamamoto into the ninth inning? We had a starting pitcher. A complete game. First one that's happened in the League Championship Series in 8 years. Dodgers win it 5-1 over Milwaukee. They have allowed 2 total runs in 2 games to the Brewers. That's how you go to the World Series. Muncy had the big hit. Teoscar Hernandez had a couple of big hits as well. And the Dodgers win the first 2 on the road, and they get the next 3 in L.A. They all have a chance to clinch it at home up 2-rip with Game 3 coming up tomorrow back in L.A. If you're a Brewer fan, and our guy, I don't want to pile on here. He knows exactly what they're facing. What do you do when you got pitching like that the Dodgers have been able to throw at him here over the last 2 games? And that's when the Brewer offense was on fire against the Cubs. I mean, they lit up Chicago in the 5 games they played in the division series with Chicago. But now their backs are up against it. They got to win Game 3 with the series shifting back to L.A. ALCS resumes coming up tonight. We'll preview that coming up later on in the show. I got an email in yesterday after we were done saying, Dom, I know how much you love the Wolves, but no love for the Wild. And I'm like, well, we got 82 games. We got a lot of season left. But they were on national TV last night where the Minnesota Wild, after their win over the Kings on Monday, facing the Dallas Stars last night. Anytime a Minnesota hockey club faces the team from Dallas, automatically passions are renewed for that. But the Stars came out last night, and they were humming against the Minnesota Wild, already up 2-0. They add to it. Again, we're early in the second period on a power play goal. I can't even look at these jerseys. It just makes me angry because they should be the North Stars. It's a 3-0 Dallas lead after this goal from Matt Duchene, who was a killer in the playoffs last year. It's 3-0 in favor of Dallas through 2. The Wild, though, woke up. The opposite of what happened on Monday when the Wild got way up and the Kings rallied. Minnesota power play, which was abysmal last year, has been sensational. Matt Boldy scores already his 4th goal of the season. The Wild have only played 4 games. I'm not a great math mind, but that's a goal a game. Nifty deflection to beat Jake Ottinger to make it a 3-1 Dallas score. I like the replays that we get from CNN's feed because they give us a couple of different ones. That's a great deflection to make it a 3-1 Dallas score. Now the Wild get another power play. 10 minutes left after the first goal. They score again. It's Kaprizov with his 4th. So Boldy and Kaprizov, newly minted $130 million man, and he's scoring goals. This is 4th of the year. Another power play marker. All of a sudden, we got a hockey game. It's 3-2 after the nifty wrister from Kaprizov to beat Ottinger. Remember, Ottinger got pulled in the playoffs last year. But Dallas gets the next goal on an empty netter here with 2 minutes to go. Radek Vaska is in. He'll backhand that. Stars would add another empty netter. And Dallas goes on and beats Minnesota 5-2. Wild suffer their 2nd loss of the season to fall to 2-2. Is this the start of a 5-game roadie? They're heading to Washington next. But the Stars get the win last night. Fun to watch. I mean, Kaprizov and Boldy are scoring. It's fun to watch there. So that was from the ice last night. Now, one other thing, because I mentioned yesterday, I was bragging about it when McFeely was on the show. We had college football last night. We had game from Conference USA. We had the Sun Belt playing. We're a little ways out. I think next month is when MACtion officially starts. But we had a Fun Belt game last night. I'm sure you all plugged in to Arkansas State and South Alabama. And before we go to the highlights here on this, just a quick word, because these games being played, just full warning here for those that want to move up to FBS football, Conference USA has these games. There's going to be a couple more tonight. Just look at the stands, first off, of who's going to be there, right? People are watching, but just full well know that if North Dakota State if CUSA came knocking again, because I believe they did already, and said, would you like to come and play, this is what you'd have. You'd have a Tuesday night game. At this point, though, beggars can't be choosers, maybe. All right, so the Red Wolves of Arkansas State, the Jaguars of South Alabama in Mobile, the home of the Senior Bowl, was where the game was last night. And we had drama, even better, a last-second walk-off between these two teams. We'll pick it up. It's a 7-3 game for South Alabama. They add to it late in the third quarter on this touchdown run from P.J. Martin to make it a 14-3 USA lead. Back come the Red Wolves. This is their quarterback, Jalen Rayner, getting loose. Nobody can tackle him. Sets up a touchdown. Arkansas State misses the 2-point play. So it's a 14-12 score. They get the ball back. Kloon Van Andel, you know him, from 38 yards out, booms a game winner. Arkansas State walks them off. The Red Wolves beat the Jaguars last night in the Fun Belt, 15-14. You can't tell me North Dakota State, South Dakota State wouldn't steamroll these teams, because they would. A win for the Red Wolves last night. We teased it. We got to pay it off here on a Wednesday morning. We got a packed show coming up for you. Our guest lineup is brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. Our guy Drew Trafton will join us, tipping over cars on his way here. His Mariners are 2 wins away from the World Series. They have a game tonight in Seattle. That should be rocking. That's on top of the Grizz one. The Seahawks are rolling. This guy could be ripping the door off its hinges when he comes in the studio here in just a couple minutes. At 9:35, we'll welcome to the show Kole Heckendorf, back with us, all-time Bison great, St. John's OC. The Johnnies play the Cobbers this weekend in Moorhead. Homecoming big time there. Quarterback Trey Feeney. Carson Hagerly is back playing football as a wide receiver for the Johnnies. We'll talk with Kole about that coming up at 9:35. And at 10 o'clock, Trey's dad, Kevin, will join us. He'll actually be able to watch the game on Saturday because his Spuds play tonight. As we mentioned, Moorhead has a matchup with Edina and Mason West. We'll talk to Kevin about status of his other son, Jet Feeney, who's been out since the second game of the season after an injury against Woodbury. When he can potentially return, if he plays tonight, we see him in the postseason, and what the postseason looks like. Spuds had a tough loss on Friday to St. Michael Albertville. The bracket comes out on Saturday for 6A football. We'll try and decipher that coming up at 10. And again, as I mentioned, Bison Media Zone coming up today at 10:35. So that's our show lineup here on a busy Wednesday. We are just getting started. We'll take our first break. We come back. Drew will join us to celebrate his Mariners up 2-rip in the ALCS. That's coming up when Hot Mike returns after this.
The biggest Seahawks, Sounders, and Mariners fan in the FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
All right. You did not rip the door off its hinges. You certainly could have. It's fine.
I was like in a Kool-Aid Man it in here and just like break through the wall. That's like the first time we've ever rolled that open,
right? And
be like, all those teams are doing well at once.
They're all winning,
it's like,
right?
How did that happen?
Email comes in. This came in yesterday afternoon. Mr. Dom Izzo. This email is on behalf of all Mariners fans listening, however small that may be. We request you not ask Drew Trafton questions about our beloved Seattle Mariners until November 2nd, 2025 on his segment of Hot Mike. We want nothing to do with the Izzo curse.
Dude, yeah.
That only applies to teams I cheer for. Or I pick to win. That's like all it works. Everyone is kind of stepping on eggshells around the Mariners, like in the fandom, because it's like, are we allowed to do this? You know, it's like absolutely. There's that. So like if you watch How I Met Your Mother, there's a joke that just like
hits at the heart of it. The character Marshall says, we can't invite so-and-so. It'd be like inviting the Seattle Mariners to the World Series. It'd be awkward for everybody. And it's like, it does very much feel that way. My mom has shut down so many text conversations with my brothers and my dad because she's like, don't, because we'll say like, hey, we could play sub 500 baseball right now and still make it. She's like, don't say that, and it's just, absolutely. I understand that mindset completely.
Let's go back to Friday before we
Oh,
show
my
what
gosh.
happened the last two games, because that was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was a great baseball game. I had no rooting interest. I'm just watching it like as a fan of baseball, just as awesome.
It was.
What was that meat grinder for you like going through the 10th,
So-
the 11th, I mean, the Mariners and the Tigers had chances too.
Yeah, we've as like Mariners fans, our last playoff experience in 2022, we had a game go 18
Correct.
against Houston
Yep.
and lost, and it felt like we were watching that same movie play out a little bit. My heart rate. So I went the next day. I went for a run. Like I'm not like an athlete or anything, but I went for a longer run. My heart rate did not get higher during that run than it did while I was sitting down in a chair watching the game 5 the night before. Like my body is not built for postseason October baseball stress.
I know it got legit when Logan Gilbert came in the game, who's never pitched in relief. Castillo came in the game and never pitched in relief before. That was high energy. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and obviously they win the game the way they did, which with Jorge Polanco of all people winning it for the Mariners, and then literally flying cross country, and have beaten the brakes off the Blue Jays in the first two games of the series.
Yeah, I think that Tigers series, just in terms of the pitching, like it was like iron sharpening iron, and those guys were just like splitter.
Yeah.
It's like, and they just were like, all of them were on, and for Detroit and Seattle, and I think Seattle was just so like set in that mindset.
Humming.
And then the bats woke up a little bit too. The last couple of days, they love hitting into Rogers Center.
They love Jorge Polanco right now. You're watching it again from on Monday what he did. That ball was hammered to right center.
Yeah, Cal Raleigh's hit 9 homers in 15 career games.
That's
there.
crazy. Yeah.
It's just like they hit well there.
It's still Sky Dome to me, but I get it.
Yeah, Sky
like
Dome,
it's T-Mobile
Rogers
Park tonight.
Yeah,
it's Safeco Field.
Yeah.
It's Safeco.
And oh my goodness, that's going to be an environment.
I was going to ask you about
tonight.
that. The series shifts. The next 3 games are in Seattle. I can't even imagine, knowing full well, people know with the Seahawks and with all their success, how crazy those games are. This is going to be to that point tonight, right?
Seattle, I think, is actually more of a baseball town at its core. Like they more easily fall in love with the Mariners, because there's that long held suffering there. And I think there's more of just like a higher standard for the Seahawks. And so when there's that sort of fever pitch that takes place where it's like, what are these guys doing?
Right.
Like people, and they've just wanted this for so long. You know what I mean? So going back to the, really the 90s, and having that ride with that team, like we've been like just living off of that, just the nostalgia of that. And for this, like this team, this 2025 team has already matched the best results that any Mariners team has had in the postseason by just winning 2 games in the ALCS.
They won 2 against the Yankees in 2000, right?
And then 2 against against Cleveland in 95.
Okay, because I know they only won 1 in 2001.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, you're in uncharted territory entering the game tonight. And you're going to have 47,000 fans just going bonkers tonight. I mean, it's going to be, the next 3 nights are going to be really, really fun there.
Shane Bieber for the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
George Kirby is going for Seattle tonight, which is the lone game because the NLCS is a travel day. And then tomorrow, you guys have the late game tomorrow, correct? Because I think the Dodgers played the early game.
Yeah.
When I was talking about that, this is a TV nightmare for the sports TV nerds because both games are on the West Coast. So you can't play, like the Dodgers can't play at like 1 tomorrow because it's 11 o'clock LA time, and you're not going to do that to the Mariners either.
No.
So you got to push each game back a little bit.
Yeah, having a team that's not, except for the Blue Jays, in that Eastern time zone, it's kind of like, it's a weird territory for baseball where it's a little uncomfortable. You get the sense where it's like they want that like if you're Major League Baseball, you'd want a team in that time zone.
We've talked about this. There's way too many average sports fans care about TV ratings. I don't understand it for the life of me. Like, I care about them. I'm in it.
Yeah.
You're in it. But like the average fan, who cares who's playing in it? If you're a baseball fan, if it's Milwaukee and Seattle, awesome. There's a huge connection there. The team in Seattle moved to Milwaukee. They were the Pilots before they became the Brewers. That's cool. If it's the Dodgers and the Mariners, wow, that'll be fun. There's a huge connection there. Ohtani playing in Seattle will be monstrous.
A big deal. Yeah, absolutely. And there's, I'm sure that'll be a huge storyline if that series comes.
But there's way too many people that care about TV ratings that have nothing to do with it. I never understand
think,
that.
I think it's more of an attention thing because baseball is such an, it was kind of birthed in that time zone.
It is a regional sport now.
Yeah,
it definitely is.
And where it's people haven't watched the Mariners. Like, I've watched so much coverage the last couple
I
days.
guarantee Friday night was probably their first time watching a Mariner game all season long. If they were just an average sports fan,
and I think a lot of people in that MVP race kind of got to look at Cal Raleigh and went, "Oh, it's not just what he does at the plate that makes him so valuable."
Yeah.
It's like his defense is, is the number of innings that he's caught. It's just they kind of saw it and they're like, "Oh, I get why he's in this conversation with Aaron Judge now." Where it's like I've never heard of this guy before outside of maybe winning the home run derby. And it's like, no, this. These teams out west, other than the Dodgers who spend money to be seen,
gobs of money.
They have stories too. Yeah.
Don't tip it over cars tonight if they win.
No.
The
level of anxiety just goes from a 10 to like 12, like Spinal Tap level, like crank it to 11.
Got another email. Can you ask Drew Dom why Montana decided to schedule Sacred Heart in the middle of their season?
I'm so confused by that as
the
well.
Grizz have Sacred Heart on the schedule in Missoula this weekend.
5-2 Sacred Heart, but a team that got.
Sacred Heart and Montana are the two teams who have the most comeback wins so far this
season.
season. Sacred Heart
That'd
is
be
up there
fun.
too. So
you
better not have a comeback against Sacred Heart this weekend.
Well, you never know. I mean, the Grizz have been such a second half team this year so far. I
saw, by the way, the website crashed on the alumni site to buy the helmets and jerseys.
Yeah. So the day after or 2 days after the game, they opened that up. And because they're going to auction those off.
It's fantastic. It crashed. That's awesome.
They're already talking about like buying more stock, or bringing in inventory for that.
That should be like in the rotation. Why
I
would
think
that not
so
be?
too. I mean, it's just like you can that makes those jerseys playoff eligible, and it's like you're telling me if you have a home semi or quarter against like one of the Dakota schools, you're not pulling those out just to like
awesome.
give you just like that much more like. Those were so awesome.
So today's a big day for FCS because 1 o'clock on ESPN2, we're going to find out the first playoff rankings are going to come out listed 1 through 10. Anticipated the Bison are going to be number 1.
Yeah,
I would imagine the Jacks are 2.
I would think so.
I would be interested where Tarleton gets placed. We've talked about that in past shows. And then where the Montana schools fit in after that.
Yeah. And
Montana could be 3.
They could be. I think they're probably 4 in my mind. But I'm not going to take it as a slight if they're 5.
Yeah.
I totally understand the argument that Montana State's played a much tougher schedule and just their game against South Dakota State alone, like it was a loss. But if there is such a thing as a quality loss, that is definitely one. And the Jacks have been incredible this year.
So Leon Costello is the Big Sky representative who's the AD at Montana State. So, but again, for people who've been through this, that when they start discussing your team, you've got to leave the room. Now, I don't necessarily think it's that stringent with the ranking part of this, of who they're going to like.
Right.
The Costello is obviously going to say, hey, Montana State, we lost to Oregon and the Jacks.
How do you fault us for that?
Okay, that's pretty tough who they played schedule-wise, and then they've won the rest of their games. They have a bye week this week. The rest of the committee members, just Bill Chaves is there, the UND AD is now
who was the Eastern Washington AD, so he
knows the Big Sky as well. He's now the Valley rep since Matt Larson's time is over. Mark Wharton is the chair. He's the AD at Chattanooga, representing the SoCon. Others, I always find it interesting who the schools are represented. And these are not powers. Albany's represented, Princeton, Long Island, Tennessee State, which obviously they saw the Bison up close, Holy Cross, St. Thomas is on there, Phil Eston, who's been on our program, and the AD from St. Thomas, and then the Word and North Alabama. Those aren't...
No.
I mean, I would say UIW, and UND, Montana State. That's it. Obviously, the Ivy's making its debut in the playoffs, but there's no real strong power FCS on there to say, that's what I'm really interested about when we get to November, how they're going to seed this thing.
Yeah. I mean, I would think that would bode well for Tarleton.
Maybe.
I think, because they're gonna want to see, like a fresh face in there. They represent that part of the country a little bit better. But yeah, I don't know.
These are almost all new committee members,
right?
So
it'll be really, today will be very interesting to kind of see where their head's at, like early on, and kind of what certain schools have to do
and what they value, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what going forward, like then what can you do with the rest of your schedule?
Because we've seen in the past where committee members have valued quality losses. Well, hey, you played this team and you lost to them so that counts for you. I despise that.
Yeah.
Wins matter.
Yeah.
And if you win games, like Montana beat UND, that's a huge win.
And it's looking better.
Right, by the week. That's a monster
week
win for the Grizz. So is that enough to counteract them playing a non-Division I?
Right. Yeah.
Maybe it is, in some eyes of the committee it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Because that's going to be their best win until the Brawl of the Wild game.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean they've got. I mean,
I
don't want to say nothing in front of them,
but they don't.
It's definitely they're going to hopefully have a clean slate heading into that game.
So theoretically, they'd be 11-0 coming into play.
And if they beat
Cats.
the Bobcats
in Missoula, by the way,
they're going to have a really good case for 2. I think because the Dakota Marker game will knock down one of the 2.
And the Bison UND game in Grand Forks is going to have a huge
that could be a
impact
huge one too.
Yep.
And if the Bison run the table, obviously, no question, they're the one. But after that, it gets really murky really fast.
Yep.
And today will be could give us a really decent insight. For some reason, Montana or Montana State is 3. That I think I don't see a world where Tarleton then moves in. I
would agree with you
2 or 3,
unless the Bison were to lose.
They really stumble. Like if they lost this SDSU and UND,
right.
then that
I would throw at
chasm.
you if Tarleton and Montana are both unbeaten to wrap the year. They're both 12-0. Then I'm really interested to see what the committee would do there. Because Tarleton would have 2 ranked wins, I believe, and the FBS win.
But even with this new committee, how do you not have the Missouri Valley champ as 1 or 2?
I'm saying they would have the if the Bison would be 1 in that scenario, but who would be 2 in terms of the Cat or the Grizz or Tarleton? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the Texans have a good case, and
depending on how Army does, how well does that FBS win age going forward?
Yeah, and maybe not so well, but it's still an FBS win.
But in Montana saying, hey, we've got to win over a top right now 6 ranked team in UND. Granted, it was in home. Right.
Climbing.
Correct.
Or if they stick in that range of 6 to 10.
Right. If Montana says, hey, we've got wins over UND and Montana State, that's
a good resume.
The only caveat would say, both games were in Missoula, but you can't, those were the games were played.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't
apologize for that. Right.
Yeah.
It's much like the Bison would say, hey, we have wins on the road over the Jacks and UND if it comes to pass. That would be hard to overlook.
Oh my goodness. Right. You can't slate them for that at all. I mean,
we'll find out. It all starts here today.
I feel like it all ends in the same destination. I feel like the semis and quarters are going to be
I would say
can pretty much slot those spots.
That's the best way to end this conversation because we all pretty much know who the 4 teams are going to be.
But it depends on where those games are played matters quite a bit.
Absolutely.
As the Bison can attest when they went to Missoula a few years ago, as the Cats can attest to,
and the Jacks as well. The Jacks went to Bozeman in the playoffs a couple years ago and lost that game.
So it's, those home games do matter at that point.
All right, try not to get arrested.
Woo.
All right,
no promises.
Enjoy the game tonight. All right,
Thanks.
Drew Trafton joining us each and every Wednesday at 9:20. We'll break. We come back. Former Bison standout wide receiver, now St. John's OC, Kole Heckendorf will join us about the Johnnies coming to town to take on the Cobbers. That's coming up when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. Wednesday show off and rolling. Kevin Feeney, head coach of the Moorhead Spuds, will join us in a half hour. Spuds have a Dinah tonight. We'll preview that on the final night of the Minnesota high school football regular season. His eldest son plays for St. John's. The Johnnies are coming to town this week to take on Concordia, one of the great annual football games in our area, and that means a chance for us to reconnect with former Bison standout wide receiver, St. John's offensive coordinator Kole Heckendorf joins us on this Wednesday morning. It's great to see you, bud. This is always a special week. You've been at St. John's for a bit now. Tell me how this rivalry stands out. You played in some great rivalry games. Where does this one rank for you with the Johnnies and Concordia?
It's every time we play them, it's always a good game, no matter what the records are. They play us harder, I feel like, than anybody else. I don't know if they just prepare for us for more than 1 week. We only prepare for them for 1 week, so it's always just a battle, and especially coming up there. We've gotten the last couple of years, but I still remember the 2019 game. We had a really good team, and they came in our house and beat us. So we got to prepare like it's a playoff game, which is how we do it here, and it should be a fun, exciting game, and hopefully the weather's okay in Fargo. That's what I always worry about.
I think it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be good fall weather. We can't guarantee anything better than that, right?
100%.
Tell me about you evolution as a play caller from where you are now to say maybe even 5 years ago. How have you changed as calling plays now?
I think I look back. I think our 2018 season, our staff started doing this together, and we had a guy named Jackson Erdman at the time, really good quarterback. We had some really good receivers in Will Galosh and Tommy Oje. Tommy's actually still playing football in Japan. He's a tight end. He's been all over the place playing football still. And I'm kind of sad about it because we weren't as good back then as we are now, right? You learn more, you understand things, and it's fun. We have a really good staff here that we get to work with, and our kids are really good. They're really smart. We get to do a lot of different things with our guys. It's funny when we talk to our defensive guys and they, talk, what are teams doing? Are they doing anything different? Did they show anything different? And they're like, nope, they run the same things. And I'm like, each and every week we run different stuff, so our guys have to prepare each week because it's, new concepts, new different things that we put in, for the defenses we see. And the funny thing is our what we practice sometimes we never see in the games, because I think our defenses that go against us, they change up because they have to, because they know if they just play their normal base stuff, it's not going to be pretty for them. So we always have to adapt and and move on the fly. And with the technology now, having the iPads on the sidelines, it makes it easy, but also makes it hard on us because we don't get to be a part of the game anymore. It's always studying what we just saw and doing, trying to do different things. So
let me ask you about how your team has been dominant this year. I mean, you guys have 4 shutouts in 5 games. I know your word on the offense, but is this even better than you guys thought you would be in 2025?
It's hard to say. Every year we lose a bunch of guys. We lost 4 linemen, our quarterback, a bunch of defensive players too. All of our linebackers were pretty much gone from last year, besides one guy. But our guys just build here. I don't want to compare it to NDSU because they're unbelievable what they've done the last 15 years. But I think it's just the next man up. Our sophomores, our freshmen have been working hard to be able to play as juniors. There's not too many freshmen that get to play at St. John's because our guys have worked hard and bought into the system and the program, and they're usually better as junior seniors than they are freshmen. So it's really fun having the defense we have this year. It makes play calling a lot easier on the offense side of the ball for sure when we know we can stop them and get the ball back. So it's been really, really fun to see those guys grow. And I don't want to say it, but it's been one of the best defenses that we've seen on our side of the ball everyday practice. And I think that's really helped us this fall camp and last spring of getting to go against those guys every day. So
I haven't asked you this. I got to, on recruiting wise, knowing the St. John's name carries weight, some swagger with it. When you go and you're looking at a guy, does that automatically raise other teams around you? Well, if St. John's is recruiting this guy, we better. Like, I know that happens with the Bison. If the Bison offer a kid, a bunch of other schools come in. Is that similar for you guys?
For sure. Twitter, everything they have with the kids now, they post it. Everyone knows who has offers from everyone. So the thing is, we don't I feel like we don't lose too many guys. Back in the day, it was us or St. Thomas. We've lost some guys to Bethel this last couple of years, as they're kind of, being a good team in our conference. So we'll lose guys to them, and it's kind of just a fit for the kids too. And a lot of kids want to play for different reasons. A lot of kids want to go and play right away. Well, that might not happen at St. John's. You can probably go play at a different place, and we just talk about winning meaningful football games. So which we've done for a long time. So
I got to ask you here how neat of a homecoming it is, not only for you, obviously from your college days, but for a couple of your players and Trey Feeney. We're going to have his dad on our next segment, and Carson Heggerly both being now with the Johnnies. Tell me about that relationship and getting both to come and transfer to St. John's.
When Aaron left, last fall, we didn't have a quarterback coming back that played. Aaron played for 4 years, so we had probably 10 quarterbacks reach out to us in the portal basically, and trying to figure that out. And it was funny because in the spring we actually had 2 kids transfer. We had a kid, Trey, came, and then we had a kid from South Dakota that came. Oh. And they both kind of battled out in the spring, and the kid from South Dakota ended up leaving about mid-spring ball, which was kind of weird, but it actually made it easier on us to give the other guys reps. And it's crazy with the portal now and getting guys. But Trey came in from UND, from a background with his dad. We've had a lot of kids, myself, coaches kids that just like the game, understand the game, makes a big difference. So it's been fun having him, and he's been working really hard and having a really good season. So.
And his connection basically, because Carson, we know, had to basically, we saw retire from football. His injuries had mounted up in his time at NDSU. Was it basically a phone call that got Carson Heggerly to Collegeville?
Yeah, Trey talked about him, and I gave a phone call. I talked to him, and then I talked to his dad. He came for a visit, loved it, tried to figure it out. He was trying to come in the spring, but couldn't figure out with classes at NDSU and getting out of his lease and different things. So he ended up, coming up this summer, working out with the guys. And then, it's been fun having him. I laugh because I'm not as fast as I once was. And I like to think that I look like Carson when I ran back in the day a little bit. So, it's fun having those 2 guys. They're really good kids and good football players. So.
You mentioned going up against Terry Horan. What do you know that a hallmark of facing a Terry Horan team like you're going to have on Saturday?
They're always ready for us. They never back down. As good as we can be and as bad as they can be some years, they give us a fight like no other. So they have this game scheduled. They know when it is. I don't know if they have extra practices for us this week, but they'll be ready to go, and they'll give us a good game, especially up there. So it's a battle going up there.
All right, I got to ask here because you talk about your running days. We got vintage video of Kole Heckendorf. I can remember your pro day. You want to share that story quickly of doing pro day inside the Bison Sports Arena on the court,
sandbagging station at the Fargo Dome the night before.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that made it a little hard on us, but it worked out all right.
Yeah, I remember. Hey, I remember a couple scouts were talking to you afterwards. I'm like, that's normally a good sign that if we're seeing you literally right next to the basketball court. It's just wild.
Yeah, I just told my fellow coach, Coach Bungham at St. John's. I know you do the countdown to the year, and I always see number 9 up there, and I said, I might not be the top number 9 after this year with old Cole Payton having the year he's having wearing number 9.
Well, so. It's funny you say that because now looking at the receivers that have come after your play, and you left as number 1. You left as the number 1 all-time receiver, and Zach Frost come through. Christian Watson has come through, and now Bryce Lance is doing what he's doing. Does it seem crazy to watch NDSU throwing the ball all over the yard now?
Yeah, I probably a little jealous. Probably why I throw the ball a little bit when I'm getting the call plays here. It's a different Bison era than I got to play in. I know T. Roll hit my back a couple times just running power on me trying to block that safety. So no, it's fun seeing the guys do what they have done there. Coach Paulsek coached me when I was at NDSU, and it's funny though how there's not many left that I know around that area, but it's awesome seeing what the Bison are doing and winning games like they have been. So
you have a great Polisic story from his early days coaching, because obviously he came in. You were, I think, a sophomore. Can you give us an early story on Tim that you remember?
Oh, jeez, I don't know if I can do that to my Wisconsin native. So, no, Tim's an awesome guy. So he's fiery.
Oh.
He's fiery. I know I'm a little more laid back coach than he is. He got after the guys. I think he gets after the guys as the head guy there. So, he does a tremendous job. Love the man. So,
hey, before we go, we just showed the last highlight was the Cal Poly bomb in that crazy comeback game in 2007. What do you remember about what Steve Walker, what Craig Bowl was telling you guys? Because you guys are getting your butts beaten pretty good until the crazy fourth quarter. What do you remember about that game?
Well, that whole year was, some comeback victories. We played Sam Houston, and we were up pretty big at halftime, and they came back, and I think I scored with 7 seconds left in that one too. So it was just, I think that whole year was just, one play. We're not going to fight until the last minute, right? Coach Kramer has built that into who we were back then and who I am today. Is you never give up, and you can see how that continues with the guys now that they have, that no matter what the scenario is, they're going to give it their all and, make plays when the opportunities. Coach Moore always told me that it was a diamond in the sky when the ball was in the air at NDSU. So anytime you got a chance to make a play, you could try to make a play.
That's a great line. That's fantastic. It's great to see you, bud. Thanks so much for doing this on a busy week. Good luck on Saturday. We'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you.
Great to see you, man. There he goes.
You too.
Kole Heckendorf, St. John's offensive coordinator, former Bison standout wide receiver. I'm looking at the records now, by the way. He's now third all-time reception-wise. He was an unbelievable player. Those highlights, I don't know if do it justice of how great a player he was. And again, that first clip in his highlight reel, I was there that day at the BSA in March of 2009, right before the huge flood came. And the dome was unavailable, as Cole mentioned. It was full with sandbags, right? So they had to, and this was long before there was any indoor facility, none of that, right? So the only place to hold the pro day, this is for Tyler Roll, Nick Schomer, and Cole, was at the Bison Sports Arena. And literally, you could see they had the basketball court still in. Cole's diving and, running into the hard court floor. It was just surreal. But I do remember afterwards that the scouts wanted to talk to Cole, and they talked to Schomer. And obviously Cole got a deal with his hometown team. He got with the Packers. Schomer ended up getting drafted by the Titans after that. That was out of that kind of pro day. It tells you again how talented a team that was way back when. Appreciate his time. That was good stuff. We'll break. We come back. We'll wrap up our first hour. We got a couple emails coming in. Kevin Feeney coming up in our second hour. Spuds Edina. We'll preview that when Hot Mike rolls on a Hump Day Wednesday. We're back after this. All right, wrapping up our first hour. Our thanks to Kole Heckendorf for giving us a few minutes. That was good stuff. Let's get a couple emails in here before we wrap up our first hour. Dom, I'm curious, if UND loses to South Dakota State, NDSU, and maybe SIU, do they still make the playoffs? They look good, but they haven't really been tested other than Kansas State. I would argue obviously the Montana win or loss was a test. Valpo, Portland State, and bad Northern Iowa team is not much of a test. Youngstown and Montana, they look good, but still on the fence because of their past fraudulent history. If they were to lose those three, so that starts this weekend with Southern Illinois, and I'm not ready to make my game pick there, but if I was to hedge, I'd pick UND right now. Okay, but let's say they have two losses. They lose those three. They'd be 7-5 if they win the rest of their games. The old quality loss argument is going to come into play, right? How do they lose to the Jacks? How do they lose to the Bison? How do they lose to SIU? I think that's they're probably no, we're just talking about this upstairs. There's 24 teams in. They got to fill the bracket somehow. I would 7-5 probably still be enough to get them in. I would think that. Their other wins would be, as you mentioned, they beat Valpo. It's a Division I win. They beat Portland State. They'll have beaten Northern Iowa. They beat Youngstown. They have Indiana State. Again, that's not going to be any great shakes, but it's a Division I win. They do not play. I don't think they have Illinois State this year. They have to have Murray. They got to go to Murray. Again, not great. They would win at South Dakota. Then tell me how good the Coyotes are. But they'd have that one as well. That would be their 7 if they were to lose those other 3. I'm telling you, though, this game on Saturday, and we'll preview it more on the show tomorrow, the UND-SIU game, if they're able to get that one, then we're having a different conversation. One thing to win at Northern Iowa, and the Panthers aren't what they were. Southern Illinois is still, I think they're a decent team. The Bison dominated that game, but they're able to go and win this game on Saturday, especially because SIU is going to give them everything after how they lost to the Bison. They're able to win that one. We're going to have a different conversation around UND's football team. So appreciate that email. Another comes in. Dom, on the selection today, is this guaranteed for how it's going to look in November? No, because there's another one coming out right before, it's November 5th. I'm not a huge fan of it coming out then either, frankly. It should come out right before the final week of the regular season, so then you know exactly where you stand. We're going to have 2 more full weeks of games before the FCS selection comes out. But nothing is set in stone after this. I think everybody will have a good idea, but we're a week before the Dakota Marker game. We're still a few weeks out from the Bison playing UND. We're still a few weeks out from the Jackrabbits going to Vermilion. Some other big games in the Big Sky. Obviously, the Brawl of the Wild game is until the end of the season. The UAC is going to have some other ranked matchups to come. I like them having it. I just would like it later, if that would make sense, on the rankings. But we'll see. That comes out later today, 1 o'clock on ESPN2. We'll break. We come back. We'll start our second hour. Kevin Feeney will join us. Moorhead wraps up the 2025 regular season tonight with a showdown in Edina. We'll preview that and much more when Hour 2 of Hot Mic begins after this.
This is Hot Mic.
Hot Mic.
On the networks of WDAY.
WDAY.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2, ready to rock and roll on this Wednesday. Again, Bison Media Zone coming up in about a half hour. Sam and I chatting about the NDSU Indiana State game. Get you ready for the Bison Hoops opener tomorrow with Minnesota. That's coming up in about a half hour. This day always on the calendar, when I was still anchoring the sports, I was always giddy for, because knowing we got Wednesday is not a day for football. But in the state of Minnesota, to end the regular season, it is tonight. And there are games all over the place, which Cullen will have highlights coming up on our sports tonight at 10:20. One of the games will be down in the Twin Cities, where Moorhead is heading back, of course, again tonight to wrap up the first year of 6A football with a little school we like to call Edina to wrap up 2025's regular season. Head football coach Kevin Feeney joins us this morning from parts unknown. You're in the car. Are we ready to go here? What's going on?
We're just getting ready to load our bus here. So, I know I'm old, but I'm not that old. But I do know the Willie Nelson song "On the Road Again," I believe is who's saying that. But that's what it feels like.
All right. So we talked before the season. Now here we are. Give me your synopsis of 6A and how Moorhead fits into it.
Yeah, great question. We're still learning, no doubt about it. But, I think big picture, if you look on the field, there's certainly, some more deeper teams. I think that's the way I would just say, deeper teams. Pretty rare. I think since we've really dove into 6A that there's too many two-way guys. I mean, there's certainly a special player. Tonight we're playing Edina. Edina's got a defensive tackle that's going to Iowa. He does play some offensive line too. And if you had a 6'4", 285 kid that moves as well as he does and plays as physical as he does, I think you'd find a way to give him a few more snaps also. But other than that, I think the biggest thing, and I watched Jared on your show and he hit the nail on the head. You're able to practice one side of the football like college, where you're getting 2 hours a day of just doing that. So it's a little more in depth, but we're navigating through it. I think the biggest thing that we're seeing is, and I've made it very clear to our team, our standard is what it is, and we believe that this is a successful formula for us. We haven't changed the way we practice. We haven't changed the way we go into the games. Now, certainly we've got to play to our strengths, and our strengths is our speed and our skill positions. And our offensive line has done a tremendous job, and our defensive line has done a tremendous job. It's just we're not playing with the volume of players maybe that everybody else is.
Is that something then you got to basically go out, beat the drum, and get more guys to try and come out? Is it simple as that?
Try, and I think that's the big thing that you try, and don't get me wrong, Dom. We try to get as many players as we can, whether we're in 5A, 4A, 3A,
Right.
whatever. But football is challenging. It's more difficult, I think, than a lot of other sports because it challenges you mentally and physically every single day, not just on game days, but in practice. And so you got to want to be a part of that. And in today's world of instant gratification, football doesn't really work that way. Football is a grown man's game. And so you've got to be willing to go through those, for lack of better words, grindy steps that it takes to become successful. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I actually think that's a true value to kids moving forward in this society. I know that's a weird answer, but no, I think the biggest thing that we've got to just continue to do is try to develop more depth, and we've got to get bigger, stronger, and faster. No doubt about it.
This season obviously took a sideways turn with your son Jet's injury. Can you tell us an update on Jet and where things are at for the game tonight?
Yeah, he's getting closer. He hasn't been cleared yet, but on the same token, he's been given some variances on how to practice and how to do some things. And, we're going to give him a shot in warmups and just see where we go tonight. But the biggest thing for him is he's going to be back. He's going to be back. And so we've got to figure out a way to get him the most prepared for when he does return, that he feels comfortable and that he feels like he can go be him. Because that's the beauty of our offense is we've designed a lot of it around him because of his skill set, and we don't want to put him or compromise what we do because the success rate won't be the same.
How have you had to juggle this? Obviously, this was not the plan when you broke camp in August to have to, especially when you have an injury, your starting quarterback. You played the position. How much does that just juggle everything because your plan is all basically torn up?
Well, and I think it's different for everybody. Number one, Austin Dryberg, our backup quarterback, has done a tremendous job. I mean, he's performed outstanding, and my big message to him is just be you, Austin. We're not asking you to be Jet. We're just asking you to be you and be the best version of you, and he's done a tremendous job. But I kind of alluded to this last spring when we got into this and we knew we were in this league. It's like there's certain programs that have different styles of offense, and for lack of a better word, it doesn't matter who they put in that quarterback because they're going to turn around and hand the football off 90% of the game, and they're going to be extremely successful doing that no matter who's behind center. We don't have that. We built this offense based on our opponents and why we have to be successful, and we put a lot on our quarterbacks. Now, on the flip side of that, I do believe that's why our quarterbacks have been super successful at this level and at the next level because we run a college-style offense where it's true spread. I mean, it is true spread where all the decision-making is happening by that guy, whether it's pre-snap reads, whether it's post-snap RPOs, whether it's checking us out of the run game. We do all kills. We do everything. And so it's a lot. It's really, really a lot. And so, our kids have done a tremendous job. Like I said, I thought our offensive line has really kind of raised their level of play as Jet has been out. And that's only going to help us hopefully moving forward then into the playoffs.
You get to ease out of the regular season schedule with Edina tonight, which I want to get to them in a second. But just momentum-wise to go and have a good performance. Obviously, you want to win the football game tonight, but how does this get you ready for next week when the postseason begins?
Well, that's been the focus all season. I think that's been our biggest challenge is in my opinion, if you lose by 1 or you lose by 50, guess what it costs? It's a loss. Yep. It doesn't matter. And so we've been, I think, pretty strategic on when we don't think we're going to win the football game, we've called off the dogs. I mean, Maple Grove's a perfect example of that. We were a 21-14 ball game late in the second quarter, and we had some things unravel, and Maple Grove's really good, and so they jumped on us. And we just kind of decided in the second half we weren't going to put guys in jeopardy of moving forward. And so, like you said, we're playing a great team tonight. The seeding for us is not going to change tonight. But football, you only get 8 games.
Yeah.
And so it's not like these games don't matter. Every game matters. But our seeding won't change. So we've got to be smart tonight. And we've got to, big picture, the message I sent to our team after we played Eden Prairie and we went for 2 in the win and lost by a point is we are where we need to be. And I know that doesn't reflect the scoreboard tonight or maybe these last few nights, but when we get to the playoffs, when we get all the bullets back in the chamber, I think we're going to be in a decent position if we can do that. And so tonight is a part of that. But you also got to make sure that you're progressing and getting better. And that's the biggest like balancing point I would say we have tonight.
You've done this a long time. You've lost your last 2 games by a combined 3 points. You ever have a stretch like that stands out?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Not really. And like you said though, and there's a lot of things that shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and all that stuff that you go through. But I think it's just part of the learning curve. And I think the big message to our kids has been, if we just stay the course. And I understand the mental psyche of football, where hey, we've lost a couple games here in a row, but I do believe, like, and I've been pretty firm on this with our staff, is how do you like these matchups with our week 1 or week 2 lineup? Because if we like those matchups moving forward, we will get that back, and it's going to come back, and we've just got to make sure that it gets back after tonight.
Let me ask you, going back to the Eden Prairie game, because I'm watching that when I'm in Illinois. Was there any hesitation of going for 2 when you got the touchdown?
Zero. We talked about it the drive before.
Yeah.
And that we were going to be going for 2, and we felt like we had a great play call and we were ready for it, and then it didn't happen, and then they had a roughing the passer, and we had another one, and I tell you what, I there's very few times that I go back and I look back and I say, gosh, I wish I would have done that. I like what we did. I thought we gave our kids a chance, and we switched some things up defensively. And, to walk into an environment like that and 8,000 fans on their homecoming and Coach Grant and the storied history of Eden Prairie, I like the way our kids competed, and I like the way we played, and we played with our hair on fire. And that was kind of the goal. And like I said, as we get through this, we've got to find ways to play like that when we get all the bullets back.
Couple minutes left here with Kevin Feeney. So I'm watching the Maple Grove game at home. I went to the Wayzata game, but I've never seen the amount of college coaches that were at your Maple Grove game, which is reflective both of your team and obviously who they were playing. Were the guys cognizant of that? I know they're worried about the game, but there were a lot of colleges that were watching that game that night.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of been that way every week. I mean, tonight I know there's going to be a bunch of college coaches at this game at Edina, and I think that's just become the standard now. And I'm not trying to sound arrogant or nothing like that, because it's not just our team, and that's the beauty of it is, like as we're talking, and my wife asked me, hey, what's the situation with Jet, and hey, can you just keep him upright? Well, hon, the team that we're playing tonight has probably the best defensive player we've seen all season long, and he's 285 pounds, and he's amazing football player. And she's like, yeah, that makes me feel a lot better as you're putting your kid back out there. But no, you know what? I think that's the fun part about this. I think that's, each and every week when we go through the scouting reports, we're like, hey, this kid's committed to here, this kid's going here, this kid's got interest from here. And I mean, shoot, Eden Prairie, when we're just talking about them, or Maple Grove, I mean, shoot, half their team's going to play college football. There's no doubt about it at any level. And it doesn't matter if you're playing Division III, Division II, or FCS or Power 4. Like, if you have the ability to play college football, I mean, you're in a small percentage of kids that have that opportunity. And so, you know what, it's been a great challenge, and we're just going to keep moving forward and put our head down and see where we end.
All right, so I'm not trying to give you some PTSD, but I told the story off the top of the show of Fargo South's trip to Edina with Anders Lee, right. And the guy you're going to face tonight is also not going to play college football, although he could, in Mason West, who this summer was drafted by the Chicago Blackhawks. We got some video of him making some play against Minnetonka last week that was unbelievable. What is this challenge tonight of facing this guy, a quarterback?
Yeah, I don't know what it is, like you said, with me playing at Edina against, I don't know. I don't know the history of Edina, but you're telling me these 2 quarterbacks aren't the 2 best quarterbacks in the last 50 years?
Right.
I have no idea, but yeah, he's a special player, and our kids are very aware of it. Obviously, Moorhead has a successful hockey tradition also, and we watched what Mason West did on the hockey rink, but I think it's super special. I have an incredible amount of respect for a kid like Mason West, and they have other players at Edina that are playing football that are super high level hockey players. And the amount of respect I have for him and what he came back for is what football is all about. I mean, it's the greatest team activity that you can do, and he wants one more shot, and certainly I'll be the biggest Mason West fan in the NHL of anybody. But I'm super excited to watch him play tonight. But we're going to compete our tails off, and then I'll be a lot more excited when he's not competing against us.
As a quarterback, you're a former quarterback. Could he play? Could he be a really good college player if he wanted to go down that road?
100%, 100%. I mean, he's got great arm talent. He's got great competitiveness. He moves, for a kid his size, he moves extremely well. And, I've listened to him talk on John Gruden's Barstool, and the maturity, you can just tell the maturity, and he's been around successful people his whole life. And so, just like Andrews Lee, I remember talking to Coach Viggs, and Viggs is like, Andrews can play here at North Dakota State. And, you know what I mean? So it's so awesome just because, like I said, I have a ton of respect that he wanted to spend one more senior season with his high school buddies. And he knows that hockey is going to hopefully be a long, long career after that.
So we've had Adam Spurl on from Maple Grove. You mentioned Jared Essler from STMA last week. So tonight is the wrap-up of the regular season. Tomorrow will be the unveiling of the bracket. Do you have an understanding of how this is going to work? Because I think, Kev, there's still a lot of people thinking you have a section tournament and then you go to state. That's not how it works now in 6A football.
No, 6A football is the only thing in the state of Minnesota that does not replicate all the other sports. I don't know why. I have no idea why. I'm not a part of those discussions. But I would say in the last 2 weeks, we've kind of been able to wrap our head around a little bit how this plays out.
Okay.
And basically there's 4 templates, the way I understand it, that are already set. And it doesn't have teams in there, but it'll say this seed from the West plays this seed from the North, and it scrambles. And so, like, for 2 rounds, we will not play anybody that we've already played. Well, I shouldn't say that. From our district. We could play somebody if we played somebody out of district. That can happen. But so, like, and then if whatever was used last year, they throw that one out. And so tonight, I think at 10:30 when I'm coming home on the bus, I have a Zoom meeting. They'll seed our section. And then tomorrow morning, they'll lay out the brackets, and we'll see where we're headed next. And, you look at the what ifs, and we could be playing somebody in the North. We could be playing somebody in the East and the South. And I believe one of the options for the South was Farmington. And, for example, maybe we'll stay overnight in Iowa before we play Farmington. I don't know.
Is there a chance you could get another home game out of this?
No. No, we will not. We will not be a host seed. No, and I think that's pretty certain. And that's where I'm saying, like, tonight's game, it does matter, but it won't impact. Okay. We will be on the road no matter what's happening.
But so, I mean, there's a chance you're playing teams like you played the hardest schedule possible. We talked about this when you got placed in this with Maple Grove, with Minnetonka, with Edina, that these are and Eden Prairie. Personally, I don't. There's not a harder section of 6A than the one you're in.
No, there isn't. But there's other good football teams. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. But you know what? I always kind of just tell everybody, you know what? There might be 2 or 3 squads that are maybe different than everybody else. But guess what? That's in Power 4 football. That's in FCS football, and that's in high school football everywhere around the world, right? But the difference is maybe teams 3 through 20 are all pretty close to each other, right? And that I do believe that's where we fall into. You know what I'm saying? As far as that tier where, hey, you know what? Football is a game of attrition. We went through a crazy amount of injuries for the middle stretch of our season. If we get these guys back, I don't know. Like Minnetonka's quarterback's been out lately, and I have no idea when he's coming back, but they've changed without him. And so, you know what? If we just keep our nose to the ground and we play some pretty good football, we'll give ourselves that's the biggest thing that I take out of this. We can win every Friday or we can lose every Friday. And it's really, the margin of error is so small. I mean, the last 2 weeks when you've said we've lost by 3 points, we've missed 2 extra points. And that you start chasing it, right? And it that didn't win or lose a football game, but every play matters. Every single snap matters. And it doesn't matter OD or specialty. We've got to be really good if we want to expect to win.
Last thing for you, and I really appreciate the time here before you get going. David Mack's season has blown up. Is he now on a level where I know the Big Ten was interested. Are they really interested now?
Yeah, you know what? He's had a tremendous season, and his impact has been amazing on our football team. And as you know, let's say Jet went down, it wasn't, oh, poor me. It was, oh gosh, I got to find the way to get the ball. And no offense, it forced me as a play caller to make sure that David was going to get the ball, because we didn't want that impact, because he you know, like, shoot, he practiced quarterback, for example, if we needed it, because we need to find the way to get the football to him, because he's so dynamic and so good. And Austin was able to do that. And as if we get Jet back, I know they have the relationship and they have the, but yes, to answer that question,
Yeah.
I do anticipate this winter to really blow up for David, and it has. The SEC's reached out, the ACC's reached out, and you know what? Hopefully, we can just get him as many opportunities as he can, so he can make the decision on where he wants to go.
All right, good luck facing another hockey-playing quarterback tonight, man. Thanks so much for doing this, and safe travels down to the cities, okay?
Hey, thanks a lot for having me on, Dom.
Good to see you, bud. There he goes. Kevin Feeney joining us. Moorhead and Edina coming up tonight. Of course, we'll have highlights of that on our sports at 10 o'clock. Mason West is the real deal, folks. If hockey fans that watch our show or watch Moorhead in the state hockey tournament, they played Edina. They know exactly how good a player we're watching the NHL draft. I don't know if we did this on the show. I'm pretty sure I was on vacation, but that night, Chicago Blackhawks select Mason West, Edina, Minnesota. There you go. And he's going to be playing in the National Hockey League in the not-too-distant future. Tonight, he plays the Moorhead Spuds in football. We'll break. We come back. We'll wrap things up. Of course, we got Bison Media Zone on tap. We'll get you ready for a fun Sports Wednesday and get you out of here. Hot Mic wraps right after this on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com. All right, wrapping things up here. Looking forward to our Bison Media Zone show coming up in just a few minutes. Was reading during the break article from Jeff Passan from ESPN. Headline reads, How a Dodgers-Brewers NLCS Defines Major League Baseball's Labor Battle. And it goes into saying, obviously, the Dodgers have their gargantuan payroll. We talked about it earlier in the show. And the Brewers are in the bottom third of payroll. I want to read one paragraph out of this, because as a baseball nut, knowing full well we could have a work stoppage after next season. The MLBPA has no intention, which, by the way, the Baseball Players Union might be the strongest union in the world. The MLBPA has no intention of negotiating if a cap remains on the table. And considering Major League Baseball was on the cusp of losing games in 2022 because of negotiation that didn't include a cap, players already have spoken among themselves about how to weather missing time in 2027. Certainly the Brewers winning wouldn't ensure avoiding that, but if in any argument about the necessity of a cap, the union can counter that the juggernaut Dodgers lost to a team of self-proclaimed average Joes with a payroll a quarter of the size, it reinforces the point that team-building acumen can exist regardless of financial might. That's a lot of pressure to put on a team that's already trying to win just because they want to win. But it's hard as a baseball fan or as a sports fan to look at this and say, how is this competitive equity is not here? Football has it. That's why football is gargantuanly popular. You can have a team that is really good one year and the following year they're 500 or worse, or a team that's terrible like the Bengals were and then make it to the Super Bowl. That's why football has mastered this with their cap, although some believe that the salary cap is a myth in the National Football League. That's why football has become as popular as it's become. Baseball, for all of its greatness, has not been able to get out of its own way over the last 35 years, going back, of course, to the canceled World Series of 1994, that now, as we near 2026, we're staring at the same problems of 32 years ago, where they haven't been able to figure it out, where the winning teams, the teams that spend the most, win the World Series every year, whereas the teams that consistently draft well, and Eric's talked about it as a Brewer fan, consistently draft well, trade for the right players, sign guys to moderate contracts in free agency, they get punished. I mean, I think Tyler Glasnow is going to pitch for the Dodgers either in Game 3 or Game 4. He was a Rays draft pick. Tampa found him, cultivated him, got him to be really good, and then what happens? They couldn't afford him. He's with the Dodgers. Blake Snell's the perfect. He was a Ray as well. It's tough to be a supportive of a sport that develops its best players and then ships them off to the more expensive teams because they can't afford to pay them. I don't want to see baseball lose any games because they'll just get swallowed up and be forgotten if they're not playing in 2027. But something drastic is going to have to happen, and it may come as a result of this series. We'll see. All right, we got to get out of here. Let's do some what to watch before we wrap things up. Now, see, you've got the ALCS here tonight with the Blue Jays and the Mariners. Neither one of those teams are spending gobs amounts. That's at least a good sign there. That's tonight, game number 3 in Seattle, 7 o'clock, FS1. Yeah, we got CUSA football tonight. Delaware and Jacksonville State. You heard of those teams? Have they not been FCS powerhouses? 6 o'clock on ESPN for that one. And then UTEP and Sam Houston. UTEP, who's going to the Mountain West Conference next year. I think they've won one game. Sam Houston's 0-6. That's at 6 o'clock on CBS-SN tonight. Must-see TV there. We got to roll. Our thanks to Drew Trafton, to Kole Heckendorf, and to Kevin Feeney. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. The Bison Media Zone is coming up in just a few minutes. We'll see everybody back here tomorrow.